That report. Well, it's a busy time for the Treasury. David Murray's Financial System Inquiry report is also up for discussion, with Assistant Treasurer Josh Frydenberg holding a series of round tables to discuss reform. This one in Melbourne this morning with representatives from the super industry. And I caught up with Josh Frydenberg from our Melbourne studio earlier. Josh Frydenberg, thank you for joining me.
Nice to be with you, Ticky.
Josh Frydenberg, the round table that you've had today around David Murray's report, what's been your takeout?
Look, certainly a lot of people in the industry have welcomed David Murray Financial Systems Inquiry because it's been nearly 2 decades since the Wallace report. Look, he's made a number of wide-ranging recommendations, whether it's around the capital adequacy ratios for the banks, whether it's around superannuation and how to get more competition into the default fund market and greater governance and more independent directors on superannuation boards, or around product intervention powers for ASIC and the role that ASIC may play in the financial services sector. So we've had a very interesting discussion today, certainly very constructive, very productive, and the government will be reporting and responding formally to David Murray's review pretty soon.
Now, one of the things that David Murray, I think, brought up was he was concerned about the use of superannuation for tax minimisation and not for retirement purposes, really.
Absolutely, and we had an interesting discussion today about enshrining into legislation the purpose of superannuation, particularly as a retirement income stream, where it is a substitute or a supplement to the age pension. If we could get bipartisan support for that, I think that would be a very constructive step forward, and it would help people better understand the purpose behind superannuation.
We've, of course, had the tax report today. The impact of bracket creep has come up in this report. 2 million Australians jumping from 32.5% to 37.5% over the next decade. That, of course, would be a big contribution to the bottom line. What do you make of the idea of indexing these tax thresholds?
Well, as you know, it's been done before, but it comes at a major cost to the budget. And the issue about bracket creep is that while it might look good in the short term for the government because it increases the size of their coffers, it's not good for the economy in the longer term because it's a disincentive for people to stay in the workforce and to work a bit harder or longer.
But would you look at that? Because, I mean, inflation's not such a big deal now, is it, at the moment?
Look, we have no plans for that right now. This is an issue that was dealt with in the IGR in the 2020s. But look, the issue here, as you point out, Ticky, is that today 27% of taxpayers are in the top 2 tax brackets. But in 10 years' time, that increases to 43%. So you're seeing an additional 2 million taxpayers go in that $80,000 to $180,000 tax bracket, and an additional 750,000 taxpayers going into that top tax bracket above 180,000. So this is having a real impact on the broader economy as a result of bracket creep.
GST has gone down as a contribution, as a percentage of GDP, broadening the base. Obviously, government has said it's not going to do anything without approval from the states. Can I take it that it's something that you would take and ask for a mandate from the people at the next election?
No, I wouldn't go that far. What is very clear in this report is that we would not proceed with any change to the GST unless there was a very broad political consensus which involves the support of all the state and territory governments, and as the Prime Minister made very clear to the Parliament, it would need the support of the Federal Labor Party. So we have no plans whatsoever to increase the GST. But that part of the report today makes for interesting reading because it says that Australia's 10% GST rate, Ticky, is actually around half of what the OECD average is for an equivalent tax. And only 47% of total consumption is actually subject to the GST because so many areas are exempt.
But we've just seen Mike Baird successfully take not a very popular measure, asking for a mandate for reform. He now feels he has that mandate. Would that not be the thing to do, to take GST? And indeed, has this Liberal federal government, the coalition government, got the ticker for this sort of reform agenda?
Ticky, we have the ticker. if you excuse the pun there. I mean, we are certainly very determined to take significant, courageous and far-sighted reform to the Australian people to seek a mandate for, just as we did, by the way, at the last election, and that was the budget repair job, which we're being obstructed now in the Senate on. Look, we're very determined to take significant tax reform to the Australian people. We've got a year-long conversation with the Australian people. We're very happy to have it. Every issue is being discussed in this discussion paper, from capital gains tax to negative gearing to superannuation to the GST to income tax to corporate tax. It's all there today in a 200-page document, but let's just wait and see where the debate goes. But certainly right now we have no plan to increase the rate of the GST or to broaden its base.
Josh Frydenberg, a long way to run. Thank you very much for joining us.
Great to be with you, Ticky.